Yeah. I always forget their name, but I feel like grung is the wrong word. No, grung is the right one. The grung egg. It's like a petrified grung egg.
Okay, so if Kyranos had gone to pick that up um, from Terran, would it have been kind of the same thing? Would there be a battle between Papa Zonal, who's currently within him, and Nang Nang, or is the
It would indeed. The moment you touch any of the other artifacts, the gods are going to fight over your body.
okay? Because I do feel like Kyranos, unless that's something that Ernie, if you want the chance, Chris, if I'm fine with if Ernie was the first one to find that and wanted to pick it up.
Yeah, no, I mean, she probably would have curious about something fossilized, but I think yeah, she let everyone else go first because, well, she didn't know the guy before she rummaged through his pockets.
Yeah, so I think in that case, Kyranos would have picked it up.
So I'm pretty sure the battle of the gods for you are quite literally um, roll a die. Odd is Papa Zotel, and even is Nang Nang, and winning out to your body.
All right. Said odd is Papa Zodal.
Yeah, that works. Odd is Papa Zotel. So yeah, Papa Zotel maintains control of your body. So effectively, you kind of like pick up this petrified grung egg, and looking at it for a few moments, it seems entirely unremarkable to you and basically uninteresting. Where you're kind of maybe subtly influenced by Papa Zotel just to like drop it or kind of ignore it. But I like the idea where like the god is actively like making that severely uninteresting. It's almost like oh man, it's one of the coolest guys from like Doctor Who was like you see them while you're looking at them, but the moment you look away, your entire memory of them like disappears. So the moment you're not like focused on it, it's just not even it's a non sequitur. There's no question about its existence. You've already forgotten about it.
Oh yeah, those guys. They were. That was a fun arc.
Yeah, where everybody ends up like sharpieing their whole body, like tattooing themselves almost to try to remember these things. So I would say in the long run, you maintain Papa Zodal there. Um, Essentially, never to find out what that egg actually is.
Yeah, so he would kind of like, yeah, and then he might actually like turn like to Ernie and almost like, you want it?
Now, that also doesn't necessarily mean that Henry doesn't have a chance to recognize the Ring of Protection and perhaps find and take that.
I mean, she probably. Well, that was happening. She would probably find that ring if she touched it. Then yeah.
So if you touch the ring, if you're kind of looking through some of these things and eventually actually touch the ring, the then question is does there get to be a point where your curiosity about this petrified grung egg makes it interesting enough that you touch that? Because that order of operations might mean you have one inside of you that's not necessarily as useful, and it might mean that the other one takes over when you touch it second, or it might mean that when you touch the second one, nothing actually happens. But like the order of operations on if they're both interesting to you, you're probably going to touch both of them. And I guess it almost even comes also to Kyrinos as a question of, are you curious of the ring, which is the ring of protection as well? So I think at this point that those are the 5 gods that you all have right now.
Yeah, that seems right.
Yeah, I think Kyrinos is probably good with the amulet.
Yeah, but Ernie would be curious about the egg because, well, yeah, archaeology is the whole thing when she went into the tomb. So petrified egg, that's pretty curious.
So do you think you're going to touch the egg first?
I'll probably touch the ring first, then the egg.
Gotcha. So yeah, do the same thing basically. Um, Ublaka will take control of you as you touch the ring, and you'll hear the voice. I can't remember what his actual saying is. Let me flip to it real quick. Oh, you know what? It might be on the actual handouts for them. It would be much easier to find. Um, of course, it doesn't say. I can't remember what Ublaka's was offhand, and I'm sure I'm looking at it, but I just don't see it. Okay, there we go. Um, doo, 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 doo. Yeah, this one just says it kind of like dust swirls around you. You see like the feral bear creature almost like billow in the shadow towards you as it kind of charges and with a ghostly roar kind of just like encompasses your body and like enters into you. There might be a saying, but it's hidden inside of all of the text, and I don't quite see it. But that would be kind of the initial experience of touching the actual ring of protection. And then when you eventually then look to the grung egg, this is where you would do the same thing. Do odd Orbo, Ublaka stays in power, and even would be Nang Nang takes control. Excellent. So you maintain with Ublaka inside of you. Uh, you reload your character sheet, and they should have the spirit of Ublaka under your feats, under features and traits. Theoretically, I have that set up. So you have a 4th attunement slot, which I see on mine. So you can add the Ring of Protection from Ublaka. You would just have to add a Ring of Protection, and then just name it as like Ublaka's artifact. But theoretically, you can maintain, the 4 attunement slots as long as one of them is Ublaka.
Yeah, that all seems to be working. I have it now. I'm just gonna rename it. Ring of Ubalaka.
Was Kyrinos ever taken over by any other gods before Papa Zotel? Everybody's on their first god right now, right?
Yeah, I think it was Jarek who basically he was already inhabited by one, and then I think Kyrinos this is the first time there's been that kind of like fight.
Yeah, like only Jarek and Terran actually switched gods. Or even, I don't even know if Jarek actually did switch. But okay, that's legit. So that kind of catches up us on that little bookkeeping, because I do feel like we kind of glossed over what maybe we should have spent more time to actually like fully kind of honor Taryn and actually finish things up. It is also kind of one of those things that I often feel like it ends up being a little bit awkward, like immediately going into like a funerary, like looting the corpse of kind of time frame. All right, all of my maps seem to be failing. I wonder if I need to reload more 20. Yeah, that immediately looks better. I'm not sure what happened, but like all of my maps were loading the same like dark black screen. Now I actually have access to this full one, and hopefully I'll still have access to the little miniature versions. But effectively, we're kind of picking up. It doesn't have to be inside of the same moment where you guys like did whatever amount of damage to that boar's head, and the charm seems to immediately drop from Quinn and Zeros. I think it's kind of neither here nor there whether the boar head is destroyed. It's not like it disintegrates or anything, and it's not necessarily something that was ever alive, like in moving. So whether it's now like destroyed or still functional, you see the effect of it and I think that would be kind of like the impetus to essentially get out of this room. But do you all have any thoughts prior to essentially like getting out of here as to what you would do before leaving here? Do you have anything in mind?
I think Kiranos, having seen Quinn, like just putting her head in there, and Zeros waiting patiently, he'd be ready to get out of there. He doesn't want to risk um, the effect kind of returning.
Yeah, but Aaron would be like, oh, but maybe we should take a rest. Quinn doesn't look good. That really jumped down on her. And it didn't seem to take effect while we were on the other side of the tapestry, so maybe that could work.
My bad. Are you guys just on a black screen right now?
No. Oh, sorry.
So I heard the no from Chris. What's your screen look like, Justin?
I see the screen now. I saw the old screen with the tokens on it, and then it reloaded. It would turn black for a second, and then it reloaded. And now I just see like the room with the tapestries and the boar head, but no tokens.
All right, yeah, this is because I put you on the specific room. I got you. Yeah, it. I don't know about whatever happened when I loaded my characters. My bots account was like just a completely black screen, so that's why I just like reloaded with it. Um, but yeah, the idea perhaps from Einri is to, or even just from Quinn, is to rest in this room. Maybe not like actually in view of the boar's head, but kind of like try to like huddle yourselves between the tapestries and try to rest there.
Well, I suppose we could. Suppose as long as we don't look at it, perhaps we'll be all right.
Well, that's good.
But yeah, Kiranos is going to move to start pushing his way back through to the other side of the. Just as far away from the boar head as he can get without actually leaving the room.
And just to confirm, this is looking to take like an hour to like use some hit dice and basically take a short rest.
Yeah. I don't think I would advocate for a long rest here.
Gotcha. So, while you guys kind of take some time to like shelter, um, you can go to the doorway and like shut the doors to this hallway, or you could leave the hall open. My initial thought was that Irene was basically just saying like between two sets of tapestries, like where you guys are kind of like relatively like they can't see us, we're not here, like sheltered in this room. Was that the thought, or are you thinking like go to that area and shut the hall?
Well, the thought was just to keep tapestries between us and the boarhead, at least, so that because it didn't seem to start taking effect before we went through the last tapestry.
That's what I mean. Where I kind of expected you to be, I mean, the actual like placement. I expected you kind of like between one set or the other, is what you were thinking.
Yeah, basically.
Does that sound good to you as well, Justin?
Yeah, kind of once they explain that's the idea. Yeah. Kierno's still a little bit uncertain, but he won't raise a fuss.
Is there any reason that you don't see yourself? Is there, let me not double negative. Is there any reason for you not? I can't do it. Is there any reason you are not playing a Song of Rest when you guys take this time to rest? Are you too paranoid to kind of bank on that extra bit of healing?
Well, so I think he can do it as like an oration, and maybe thinking that it's going to be muffled by the tapestries on either side. It might not travel too far. So I think he would go ahead and do it.
Gotcha. So kind of grasping it like the mantle of leadership, kind of giving everybody like a like bountiful speech to help you all really like pick up your spirits. Everybody can take a short rest here. You can burn any hit dice that you would like. If you use one hit die or more, you can add an extra d6 that you gain from his Song of Rest. Right, that's what it is. It's a d6.
1d6. Yeah.
So before you keep, once you get close, Chris, don't forget, like, roll a d6 real quick and gain those hit points too from his Song of Rest.
I can tell you, I'm not even close.
Gotcha.
Quinn was at 1 HP, so that's who I'm rolling for.
Gotcha. And those are severely low.
Yeah, she's level 7, right? So she has 7 hit dice.
Correct.
Yeah, just make sure that I have it.
So right now, Kyrinos and Quinn can roll a d6 to add.
All right. So I think that is all of the hit dice Kiernos had remaining. So
I'm going to step away real quick while you guys finish up the short rest and grab my coffee.
sure. Yeah. Actually, I might just step away for a couple minutes myself, but I'll be back.
Are you pretty well set there otherwise right now, Chris?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we used all the hit dice for Quinn, and Ernie wasn't even damaged, so that's all I had to do.
Excellent. Is Quinn below half hit points?
No, she is not. So I'll remove those colors.
Excellent.
Welcome back.
The light above my desk is having a disco rave party. Alrighty, so we should be kind of at the end of that hour, which actually, to put in some perspective, I feel like that's pretty solid to say this has been a long adventuring day. Maybe I should have brought this up before resting. I had in mind that this has got to be pretty late in the actual day here. So I'm not necessarily sure how much more you guys should expect to continue on before you should start looking for a place that you feel comfortable resting.
Yeah. Well, I think we had spotted the sarcophagus at the other end of the hallway. So I was thinking maybe if we try to investigate that, see how that goes, and then maybe think about, calling it a night.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've been pretty bad on my notes to actually try to time frame a lot of things. And that was one thing I noticed. I don't think I had a solid grasp on where I thought it was, other than just to kind of say you're likely evening-ish. But yeah, when you guys kind of finish up, kind of kept company by the oration of Kyranos, think, what is it, Kyranos and Quinn both kind of bandaging some of their wounds, and you kind of start to gather yourselves back up, picking your shields back up, preparing to kind of move back out into the halls beyond. That's part of why I was thinking that it's been a long day, because you've kind of gone over like Papa Zotel, Nang Nang. You went back into the false tomb and tripped that again. You encountered withers those times, the tomb dwarves, and I think that took us to the two different chests on the higher level, losing Terran, moving back down and kind of cremating him, then moving down the stairs to this fourth level. So it's been a pretty long and well encompassed day.
Yeah. Gurney, if you can keep going a bit longer, I'd like to take a look at that sarcophagus before we try to get in a longer rest.
Yeah, that seems fine to me as well.
So when you do prepare and head back out into the hall, you're kind of heading back out into this hall that has some of the mycelial growth. It's not super strong. You've got the little 5-foot corridor that heads off into the north, where I think Henry had the bullseye lantern. Bullseye lantern kind of shows you there is indeed a sarcophagus at the far end of this. You might be able to see the first signs that it's kind of set off in a little portico, almost like a porch, with four. I think you can see two of the pillars that kind of isolate it, and it's like just a little step up above the stone of everything else around it. But you can kind of see that there's some of this growth in that room before you all actually head down and further into this. When you head deeper down the corridor, you will eventually kind of reveal a few more things, like a few more details within this room. There's like the section of like the purple and mycelial growth growing over there in the west side. Just assume like most of the room has those kind of things here. The big details are to notice that there's like the four pillars of the portico that shelter the sarcophagus. On top of the sarcophagus, I think you would see some adornments of the frog hemoth, which is essentially a large, kind of monstrous sized frog that has these massive kind of tentacles like coming out of it, almost as if it has like 8 limbs instead of 4, and 4 of them are these extra tentacles. The room has a shrine to a frog hemoth on the right side, and it has kind of like a shelf below it with a bunch of different like offerings between candles and gold and like little uh um carved like almost like wooden toys kind of thing. You've got 4 frog masks that 2 on each side flank the little portico where you have the sarcophagus, and then there's 4 frescoes that kind of like you can follow around the room, kind of like southeast to southwest. Each of the frescoes kind of depicting a different scene. And also there are bones scattered throughout this room.
So Kyrnos is going to move in to examine the, I guess the first of the frescoes. I guess starting on the right side, so the
Gotcha.
southeast.
Um, did you guys kind of throw the characters up there as that was the ideal marching order? Is Henry, Quinn, Kyrinos, Zeros? Or was that just kind of random because you needed the space?
Yeah, I think for the most part we've been going. Well, it was Taryn, but in the lead. So I don't know if Ernie is going to be normally taking the lead, but I'm happy to have Kyrnos be the first one to go in this time. And I think typically we've been having Flynn kind of in the rear guard and then Zeros in front of her.
So when you move down and look to the fresco to the right, you're going to see a frog hemoth kind of like wallowing in a shallow pool. Like you can see much of its body, almost like a massive bullfrog, sitting in kind of like 6 inches of water. There's enough to recognize that some of it is below the water, but otherwise it almost looks like this massive stone of this frog is just like sitting squat in the water, and its tentacles are just kind of like splashing around to the sides and above it, and almost like raining down water over it. And you can see Omawans who are more cat-like, and Omawans who are more traditionally human, and they're offering different sacrifices to this creature, be it food or treasure. And then you can see that there's a person who is in the foreground, but the head area is like shattered away from the fresco. You can't quite make out what their head is, but you can see that it's kind of grasping at a lit candle.
Hmm. Yeah, so I think he was going to kind of trying to take in those details, move, I guess, north to the. Is it a kind of like? I guess he would start moving to the next fresco on the same side to kind of examine that one.
Henry, when you enter into this room, you're going to hear a block in your head warn you against wearing one of those monkey masks. So when you approach the like northeastern fresco, you can kind of look in and see the frog hemoth is like kind of squat before four Omawan hunters carrying like bows and spears. A few of them actually ride on its back, and it seems to be kind of like a hunting party. Um, and the hunters are elated and kind of celebrating. In the foreground, you see a young woman. Oh, my bad. I said monkey mask. I meant frog mask. You see a young woman in the foreground who's wearing a frog mask, and she holds a knife in one hand and is cutting off the head of a chicken with her other hand, like as she holds its neck.
What do you make of these, Ernie?
And no clue really. Not sure. Maybe they're telling a tale or. Hmm. All I know is those masks really give me a bad feeling. So don't think we should mess with them.
Appreciate the warning. Perhaps if we examine the others, these frescoes will get a better, fuller context. And with that, Kyranos is going to move to cross the room to the, I guess, the northwestern most fresco.
Gotcha. So as you approach this fresco, you see the froggy myth kind of wraps its tentacles around a giant crocodile, and the Omawan hunters are kind of working with it to like stab their spears into the crocodile as it's grappled by the froggy myth. And then in the foreground, you can see an old man who's wearing the frog mask, and he holds a bug to his open mouth.
Like as if to just look like as if he's about to eat it.
I think it's safe to say yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I
It's
guess
like the Michael Jackson popcorn meme,
gotcha.
only with like a cockroach.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I guess one more fresco to go. Kyranos will move to look at the fourth one.
As you approach the southwestern one, you will see that the frog hemoth is helping the Omawan people by like tumbling this massive statue of Omu. Uh, my bad, I said that wrong. Why can't I think of the god who was the god before the nine? I felt like it was Omu.
Obtoa?
Uptoa, there we go. Yeah. So you see the frog hemoth helping them tumble down this like massive statue of Uptoa. And in the foreground, you can see an old woman who's wearing a frog mask, and she's like scattering 5 like golden coins into the field as if she's like sowing seeds. The, the actual name of Obtoa was quite literally right above where I'm like summarizing a line. The last word right before the summary is Obtoa.
Henry, do you think these could be the walls of history that Planck was speaking of? It certainly seems to tell some sort of a tale.
Yeah, might be onto something there. What what do we do with it though?
Well, the head from the first fresco has been torn away, but all the other 3 uh, seem to be wearing a frog mask. 4 frescoes, 4 masks. Um, four items: candle, um, chicken, the bug, coins. I wonder if this is explaining some way to appease the froghemoth. I'm blanking on the name of the god that corresponds.
Kubazan.
And given any sort of specific warning about those masks, Ernie?
No, I don't trust them. Just got a bad feeling, that's all.
So I guess Kirinos is going to want to go and take a look at the shrine. Are any of the candles currently lit?
I don't think there's any reason to assume the candles are lit. Looking over the shrine, you can see that there's like a 6 or so inch tall little statuette of Kubazan, the froghemoth. Probably weighs about like 5 pounds if you were to pick it up. A brass, or rather copper bowl that's filled with like rat bones or otherwise some like kind of like marsupial kind of bones. Um, 4 dead cockroaches, a green wax candle with a salvageable wick, and then 5 gold pieces that are just kind of loose across the shrine.
So do the animal bones look like they could be chicken bones, or are they, or maybe the type of animal doesn't matter? Perhaps just some sort of animal sacrifice.
Yeah, but if we need a animal sacrifice, where are we gonna get the animal from?
Would either of you like to roll either religion? I feel like maybe religion from Henry. You could have advantage. And then Kyrinos, you could decide religion or arcana.
Uh, Kyrinos knows a bit more about Arcana, but this seems like a religion check to him as well, probably.
I think regardless with yours, you can recognize that a sacrifice is about the lifeblood. Blood is the thing that matters. Um, Maybe the fact that you see the rat bones there and the chicken is like sacrificed in the fresco, it's enough to recognize like the sacrifice doesn't matter. It's that you're sacrificing blood.
Gotcha. Yeah, so Kyrinos will relay that.
And I think it's safe to say that there is very clearly like the kind of like a crimson like stain of blood on the brass bowl as well.
Well, seeing these frescoes, my first thought is that if we were to follow the steps, light the candle, blood sacrifice, uh, consume one of those cockroaches, and then scatter the coins. But at least going from the fresco, it would seem we would perhaps need to don those masks.
Even if you think that's what we have to do, but I still say it's a bad idea with the masks. If you think that's what we need, I'll do it.
So, as a opportunity here, does Quinn have any thoughts? What she's thinking?
He's probably thinking more like, get on with it. If we're gonna try something, then let's try something. Whatever that is.
Well, perhaps before we do that, let's just take a look at those masks and actually see what the
Yeah, as you said, take a look at this mess. Quinn is basically gonna go up to one of them and just put it on.
Gotcha. Nothing happens when you put it on. They've got like a little kind of like leather strap behind them. It's not like especially like supple leather, but it does kind of like go over your head and more like kind of like wooden perhaps and maybe like kind of heavy than you would want. But as far as like perhaps if it's meant for this ritual, it's perfectly functional for the ritual.
Yeah, and then with that, she'll just turn around to us and like, oh, nothing happened. Now what?
So Kyranos is gonna kind of move up, and do the masks, kind of looking at the one that Quinn just took, and the other mask here, do they look to? Is there any noticeable differences among them, or do they all seem to be fairly similar in what they depict?
I would say they're all unique in that they're not like the exact same mask. But I would say they're all similar in that they are just kind of like made to function and show like the same frog-like qualities.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So Kyranos will pick up the second mask from this side, and then he'll kind of like turning back towards Ernie and Zeros, kind of direct them to each grab one of the others.
Erna will go up and take one herself, but like hesitantly put it on a bit.
And Zeros will take the fourth.
At this point, is everybody like making a point like not to step on the portico that like leads the sarcophagus? Seems like you're kind of like shuffling around those like corners.
Yeah, Kyranos is thinking, we might have to, the portico might be there to kind of like as a, not like protecting the sarcophagus, but he's wondering if we need to complete the ritual before we try to approach it. Kind of like make the offering first.
Gotcha. So I think you've got everybody with masks. Nothing seems to have changed in the process of doing so.
So Kyranos is going to look and he say, I'll light the candle, Ernie, if you want to. Second would be to. Well, Ernie, if you want to light the candle, I will make the sacrifice. Zeros, you can eat the bug, and Quinn, that leaves you to scatter the coins.
Oh, all right. Seems fine with me.
Right. So what is Kyranos doing?
So he was going to wait for Ernie to light that one green candle with the usable wick that seemed like, and then.
Oh yeah, my bad. Oh, what does Erie do? Erie do?
Well, she's gonna light the wick.
Gotcha. Are you in front of the fresco? Are you in front of the sarcophagus? Are you in front of the shrine?
I am in front of the shrine.
All right, excellent. So you kind of like take a moment to like spark the wick. You get that candle lit. Uh, do you do anything else, or is that pass it on to Kyrios?
Oh, if nothing seems to happen, I'll pass it on to Kiranos. See if something else happens.
So Kyranos is going to step in front of the shrine and kind of holding his guess it's left his non-dominant hand out over the bowl, is going to make a slice in his palm, and then kind of move to squeeze the blood try to squeeze it into the bowl.
Gotcha. Just do 1 damage to yourself, and you can kind of like drip some blood into the bowl.
And I think he might actually give like a small kind of like deferential bow kind of towards the little statuette as he kind of finishes up his sacrifice.
Gotcha. And then what is Zeros going to do?
So Zeros will similarly approach and pick up one of the cockroaches. He'll kind of maybe look at it a little bit distastefully, but then almost like kind of behind the mask, close his eyes, pop it into his mouth, try to almost like swallow it without chewing, and maybe similarly give like a little kind of following Kyrinos' lead, give a small bow towards the statuette.
And then Quinn, what is she doing?
Yeah, then Quinn, like going up to the shrine, will just like very casually just throwing the 5 gold pieces that we found onto the shrine.
Gotcha. Yeah, so as you guys kind of finish up this little bit of a ritual here, nothing seems to happen. You all just kind of like anticlimactically have done your parts. Don't seem to sense any difference in the actual room itself. But everybody is probably like kind of like hesitantly looking towards the sarcophagus.
Yeah, I think Kyrinos will kind of looking towards the others, and we'll start to move to cross the kind of cross beneath the portico and start moving towards the sarcophagus.
Oh yeah, and Ernie would have taken off her frog mask like immediately after doing the ritual.
I think Kyrinos still has his on.
Gotcha. Henry takes hers off. Kyrinos approaches the actual portico and the sarcophagus itself. But yeah, otherwise you guys are kind of moving around. Nothing seems to be changed at all. Do you want to slide the lid off of the sarcophagus? Are either of your Quinn or Zeros taking off their masks?
Quinn would keep hers on.
Oops, sorry, pressing the wrong button there. I think Zeros is going to take his off. He worships the being he worships is also kind of has somewhat of a frog motif, and he feels a little he's not liking this kind of like it seems like worshiping another frog-like entity, so he is going to take his off as well. Maybe whispering, just sort of some weird nonsense words in maybe a language no one else understands, and just kind of hanging back a little bit. But yeah, I think Kyrinos kind of coming up. And are there any sort of any sort of writing or inscriptions or like carvings on the sarcophagus lid itself?
Um, Honestly, this is probably one of the least adorned of the sarcophaguses that you've seen. The first line about it is Kubazan's sarcophagus is bereft of adornment. Um, to me, that just says this is a very simple stone sarcophagus.
All right. Yeah. Then I think Kyrnos he'll look to Quinn and maybe these things are heavy. Little help, and then go to start trying to move the slide off the lid.
Yeah, and Quinn will give a slight nod and follow suit.
So maybe acting a little bit faster than Quinn can respond. But regardless, by the time the two of you are pushing, you're going to find this takes no effort at all to move the sarcophagus's lid. It moves as if it is far lighter than it seems. And very easily, you can kind of slide it backward a little bit, and it feels almost as if it kind of hinges back and kind of lifts up. And you will see that there is a little bit of like a funeral garb that's kind of wrapped around some otherwise like thin I'd say vastly thin bones. Frogs, even at their stoutest, I don't think have like really big solid bones. But you kind of see like these bones. um Trying to think, are octopi vertebrates? Are there vertebrae inside of the tentacles of like an octopus tentacle? I'm not sure if there's going to be bones from it, but you basically find the bones of Kubazan kind of wrapped in this little funerary garb. And when you like unwrap it, you can see that within that wrapping, there are as well like two kind of golden bracers that are like wrapped inside. And I think there's a bit of gold. No, there's also a quiver and then some arrows that sit beside the bracers.
Kyrnos seeing well, first of all, like, yeah, very surprised. It's kind of like he was expecting a lot of resistance, so he almost kind of almost like falls over or catching himself as the lid slides much easier than expected. Seeing the quiver and the arrows, he's going to call back towards Ernie. Um, Found something might interest you. Come on and take a look.
How that area will move in closer. Take a look. Ah, what did you find?
So Kyrnos will kind of gesture towards the quiver and the arrows, and then I guess the bracers as well. And well, you're the archer. Perhaps you can make use of these.
The bracers will certainly draw your attention as they're actually like golden and like look beautiful even despite the time that it's passed. The actual quiver is kind of like rotting leather. You can see that it has seen better days and has tarnished with time. The arrows themselves, they look fine enough. Perhaps a little bit delicate and like maybe more made for ritual than like hunting like big beast. It's certainly not like fit for a crossbow kind of thing. This is um yeah, I think that's probably enough information just on that kind of overt looking at it.
Okay, yeah, I probably kind of jumped to the assumption that the quiver and arrows were also kind of um, would catch my eye, but yeah, bracers definitely would then be of more interest.
Oh, I see Caldernia over there, and she sees the bracers, golden bracers. She's gonna be like, ooh, and reach out to grab them, like to study them.
So as you touch them, roll a die for me. Odds will be Ublaka, and evens will be Kubazan. As you pick up the bracers, they're fine enough golden make. Don't seem to be anything substantially amazing or anything, and kind of just drop them as they don't seem that interesting to you.
Yeah, no, they're fine bracers and all, but seems maybe more for ritual use, maybe. Well, she just drop them back in.
Kiranos is gonna like, what are you doing? And he's going like, as she drops them, I think he's gonna reach for them.
So you can do the same thing as you touch them. Roll a die for me. Odd will be, was it Papazodal? So as you pick them up, there's going to be kind of like a swirl of these ghostly limbs as like these tentacles kind of like wrap around the room and almost start to like cinch down around the room, getting kind of closer and closer to where Kyranos is kind of standing. And as like these like swirls of shadow kind of like start to pinch closer and closer to this portico, you see like the massive like mouth of this frog hemoth kind of like come up from just behind the sarcophagus. And you will hear I feel like it says something to you, and I once again can't actually see what it says. So yeah, I think you don't hear anything, and you are now inhabited by Kubazan. Those are indeed bracers of archery. So they're not going to do you a whole lot of good here. But that is kind of how this is going to play out. As you guys find out, these gods don't necessarily mean they're going to help you do what you want them to do.
And I assume as this happens, then I think it was the amulet of health was Papazodal, right? That essentially unattunes.
Yeah, you will essentially immediately attune to bracers of archery. You will unattune from the amulet of health. And then if you look under your feet, under features and traits, if you go there and like I can either do it for you and do nothing, or you can go over there. And if you scroll to the bottom to where it says manage feats, you just want to unselect Spirit of Papazotel and select the Spirit of Kubasan.
Okay, got it.
Okay, here we go. You are brave to summon me. Together we will crush the undying one. And part of what I was getting at before is just to make sure like I have a little bit of assistance on this one. You can never get Papa Zotel again. Can't go backward. You can only go forward with these gods.
Gotcha.
I feel like there's a certain sense where at some point you guys might be able to start to figure out that there's ideal ways that you might be able to manipulate. your way to like the right god who fits you best. But that is one of those things where I think that's very metagamey, and the question is doing it in a way that is not super metagamey. But I don't think it's impossible for you guys to get there, and I certainly think you only get kind of closer and closer to understanding here.
Yeah, like I imagine like as kind of like he puts on the bracers, he gets some sense like he's almost looking. Is Ernie with a crossbow or with a um? What kind of bow does she carry?
Oh, Ernie carries a longbow.
Okay, it's almost like he's looking at it. And it's like with like some new sense of I could, yeah, I could like use that. But yeah, he probably would go to pick up one of the arrows just to kind of examine it. Probably leaving aside um, the quiver, but just to kind of take a look at it and maybe kind of take it more for um, almost as like a trophy than as something he would use.
Gotcha. Sounds good. I would not say it's far fetched to say, like taking the quiver and the arrows might appeal to you at this point. I think it might be far more viable towards like future moments that if you get another god inside of you, it is far more in line with you to be able to simply say, Henry, you should take on these bracers and embrace Kubazan. But with Kubazan in you at present, I think that is going too far to say. But again, like if you were to yourself embrace another god, I think it would then be perfectly viable for you to explicitly say, take the bracers and take on Kubazan as your like spirit animal kind of thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. Like you wouldn't like while the god's inside you, you don't want to be like, go no, go help out my friend. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I do think though, like now, kind of given Kubazan and given the quiver and the arrows were in the sarcophagus along with the bracers, even if they don't look like they're particularly in great shape, I think maybe it does make sense for Kyranos to kind of take them almost even like as a kind of like a talisman or like a token than as something that he's going to use in combat. And then I think he would move to kind of reclose the lid of the sarcophagus. Right.
That's such a hilarious one. It's a freaking like archer god, but that's the like boon that you get. So with ease, you see as Kyranos like reshuts the lid on the sarcophagus of Kubazan, and theoretically, you all have what you've come for. You have your sixth kind of like trinket of the gods.
See, Ernie, nothing wrong with those masks.
Yeah, maybe, but it still creeped me out.
They're just masks. Um, but now that we've done what we've come here for, perhaps we should take that rest.
In here? In You think that's okay?
Kupazon is with me now. I'm sure we can handle any potential difficulties. I think at this point, um, Kyrnos would have taken off the mask. He probably he'd almost like hold on to it though, like tuck it away rather than replace it on the where it was before. But
So I think one thing to keep in mind, like this isn't necessarily a bad place to rest, but this is one of the few places where there's not actually a door. So this is an open corridor. It's I think about like a 20 or 30-foot corridor, but it is effectively open to the halls. Versus you've been to other places that are at least blocked by a door. So there's some, kind of like warning when something is like, effectively actuating the door.
gotcha, that does make sense. Yeah.
Now, you guys have the potentials of going back into the room with the golden skull. That was a somewhat isolated room. You could go into like the actual boar's head room. There's things like that where you could go that are closer to here and somewhat isolated. I believe, yeah, there's no reason for you not to know that, like, some ways away, you have other potential places to rest where you guys were near, what is that? Yi Jing's tomb. Because that were like little hallways where you rested one night, next to like where there was the kind of like soup that was poured by the shadow. You guys have the actual room that was over there that was the like the water cascading around that shower, or you could go backward as well. Okay, this is a good enough time if he has to take the phone call that we could take a short break.
Sure. Yeah. So with Kubazan, just real quick, like, so I see like the flaw. Does that make me like recklessly I'm trying to think, like, it's not going to make him like go to pick up that skull necessarily, but it's just like he'll kind of be taking the lead and
So here's the weird thing. They're all meant to represent their actual a location on the alignment chart. I think between Quinn and Kubazan, or Quinn and Kyranos, you have the two dangerous spirits. Wango, I think, is more chaotic. And I think Kubazan is more neutral, or they both might just be like the chaotic ones. That might actually be a little bit closer to say that they are the two more chaotic ones. I have to leave it up to you to interpret, because I'm not going to tell you how to play your character. That's very much your choice on how to play. I am fearless. I'm not afraid to take great risks. I think you guys understand that skull seems to be a great risk. So how you interpret like that you're not afraid of it is up to you. But it does bring everything right back to this is kind of like, like Chris with Ublaka in him is quite hilarious because I think he plays that, like, I don't know, afraid to take risk character well. But that's the exact same reason why when you guys are like talking about it, I'm like, well, how about what does Quinn think? Because I felt like you, like Kyranos and Einri, could have the conversation forever without making a choice. But like, Quinn, at least one, that's the opposite kind of character where she's like, let's push the domino and see what chain of events happens. Instead of like kind of being a little more passive, like, I don't want to do anything dangerous here.
right. Yeah. Yeah. It does say, yeah, it does see. First sentence says, Kubazan, the frog unit, is wild and spirited. So, yeah, it definitely sounds like a chaotic type of kind of reckless, do what he wants, stand the consequences kind of thing. Yeah. But yeah, let me step away for a minute, maybe make a cup of coffee, and then I'll be back.
Hello, I'm back. If anyone's
I'm still here. He stepped away to grab a cup of coffee, but he'll be back otherwise shortly.
yeah, no, okay. It was
If you
first.
need
I
to,
had to like take it.
yeah. I figured it was a perfect time, and then if you needed to take a break here as well, you are more than welcome to.
Yeah, then I'll just take a little one, bathroom break or something. There. Hello, I'm back again.
Excellent. I think Justin's still. Oh, son of a bitch.
What did you find out?
Oh, I keep forgetting that you guys should have like an initial save, uh, like to try to resist the gods. But it's like the first time you're inhabited kind of thing.
All right. Yeah, now that you mentioned, didn't you do that for when we found like the staff
I feel,
Moa?
yeah, I feel like Jarek and maybe Taryn I did it for.
Yeah, because Taryn found the staff and he didn't react to it, and then he gave it to Yarek, and he got inhabited.
But see, that also kind of plays into then the question is how much do your new characters know and understand about the gods? Like to know whether they have any interest in resisting against them? Because that's where like learning the actual myth kind of comes into play, where you might actively try to resist a god because you kind of like understand like the stories that the Omawans were telling. So Justin, one of the things that I was just looking over, trying to like look to see if they ever actually like said like a true alignment for the gods, kind of in relating to your question about how much you should enact that flaw, was actually coming across and remembering that the first time you take upon you one of these magical items, there's actually a charisma save that you can do to try to resist the god. And I've basically forgotten to do it with Kyrinos and with Enri. Maybe to a lesser extent, we forgot to do it with the sidekicks, but I think that's kind of maybe less of a issue. Um, I don't know. Do you guys want to potentially backpedal where I have you making these saves? Or do you think it fits better just to kind of leave things how they are? Because it is only the first time you pick it up. Once you have a god in you, like it is correct that like touching another god's item, it's really just a die throw of who wins out inside of you.
Yeah, I think at this point I'm good with just kind of keeping things as they are.
Yeah,
Does that sound good?
oh,
I was just going to ask you. So if you're on the same page, that fits. So as far as things go, Kubazan is chaotic good. So that flaw is very much like try to follow a kind of chaotic path. And I think the other chaotic is Wango and then Ijin. So Wango is like chaotic evil, and then Ijin is chaotic neutral. So that's why those three are kind of like the troublemakers.
Gotcha.
So it does sit where it's up to you, you know, how to enact that. You can certainly um, it. This is like kind of also a reminder, like this is a god who is almost like a constant voice in your head, but they don't rule you. So it's almost like having, like a backseat driver when you're like trying to play a video game, or actively a backseat driver while you're driving your car. This is basically like you're trying to do you, and like the voice of Kubazan might be, touch the skull. It's made of gold. Take it. It's theirs. It's for you. What could go wrong? Um, but it doesn't mean that you have to act on it. So this is just as much up to you how you want to role play those things. Um, where perhaps it's easier for Kyrinos to avoid the itch of Kubazan by actively trying to avoid going near the skull, because you have the rationale to recognize that Kubazan's going to want to touch and play with it, and you don't want to, so you're not going to go near there. So you can play these things however you want. You are not required to like do what the god kind of pushes you towards. It's just a reminder, like it's kind of like that angel and the devil on your shoulder.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, otherwise we're kind of at that phase of trying to decide, do you want to step backwards and maybe upward in the dungeon to try to find somewhere safe on the levels above you? Do you want to rest in Kubazan's room where there is no doorway? Go somewhere where perhaps you can at least shut a door between yourselves in like the hallways where there might be wandering guardians? Do you want to go somewhere kind of behind the scenes where you don't belong, but where you might find less of like patrols? Do you all have an idea where you would like to rest?
Well, the tapestry room, it worked out fine last time. It's got doors, and like you said, perhaps if we don't disturb the boarhead itself, perhaps that's a fine enough place to rest.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Seems safe enough, and said there's the door, so should keep us a bit safer.
So, all right, let's go.
Is there anything that you would like to prepare on your way in?
I think Kiernos is just going to push the door open.
Gotcha. So yeah, you guys can kind of head inside and move into the tapestries again, and more or less kind of make a little bit of a space for yourselves in kind of like the central, like two areas of the tapestries. If you wanted, you could kind of like throw the second one up, so you have like a little bit more space to actually like have the four of you in kind of a powwow.
And I was thinking maybe we just kind of, if we can, open up the one to our right a little bit so that we have a view of the door.
Gotcha. You could definitely do that as well. Do you have any other plans as to approaching a long rest, or are you otherwise just gonna kind of basically um, what you have Starfallen for kind of a permanent light source, so like no sense of a fire, just doing some sort of like everybody's having like hardtack rations. You'll keep Starfallen nearby. Um, any other thoughts?
I guess Kiernos will spend some time. I can't remember. Did you he'll probably spend some of the rest looking over the spell book. Can't remember if you actually gave me the list of spells that was from there already or not.
What spell book?
The same wizard with the goat staff.
I don't think I've prepared anything with that, but it has alarm, comprehend languages, detect magic, expeditious retreat, identify, illusory script, sleep, and tensor's floating disk. Those are all the level ones. And then arcane lock, cloud of daggers, flaming sphere, and knock. Those are the level twos. And then for level 3, it has dispel magic and fireball.
Gotcha.
So I think part of what we got to around that idea was that maybe you don't necessarily have enough paper to actually copy anything of real note there. But I do think there's a certain level of like if you wanted to like start to approach those things, there's a little more access to it. But you could potentially like enact anything that's like ritual from it. I don't know. It's kind of open to interpretation what you can and cannot do with that. So let me know if you had any thoughts about anything there, but I don't think you're going to be really with a big amount of time that you're going to be copying like big amounts of those spells.
Yeah, and actually, a lot of them he either already knows or, like I definitely think something like Expeditious Retreat with Kubazan is like he's going to have no interest in that spell. But yeah, a lot of them he already knows, or they're not of any urgency for him to, I don't think, pay particular attention to. So, but yeah, I think other than that, that's pretty much all Kyrinos will be doing on the for the rest, aside from I guess keeping his watch.
Who's going to be on first watch?
Kyrinos can offer to take the first watch.
Let me get a perception from you here. And are you actually like copying any spells during this time, or are you just kind of like I don't know, like mildly um, distracted while you like read? What are you thinking that you're actually doing while Kyrinos is on watch?
Yeah, I think for now, just more kind of reading it over, trying to get a sense of what's inside, but not planning to copy anything immediately.
Gotcha. So yeah, most of this first hour goes by pretty seamlessly. Doesn't really seem to be anything of note kind of happening. You don't really hear anything to kind of like garner your attention outside of the actual doors. And that first hour just kind of goes by while you're scanning through the actual like scribbles of um, Devlin. And do another perception for me, please. Second hour will pass by in a pretty similar function as you continue to kind of go through these notes, starting to figure out a few more of kind of like the tricks of his writing, starting to gain a little bit more of like an understanding um, of like kind of his own little shorthand, but otherwise little to nothing of note here. And who would Kyrnos like to wake up for the second watch of the night?
He'll go wake up Ernie.
Yeah, then Erna will take her place at the watch. We had light from Kyrna's, oh well, oh, Fallen Star?
Yeah, Starfallen is the light source.
Yeah, Starfallen, thank you.
Yeah, so Kyranos is, since now that we have that, he is no longer using his light.
Then let's see, perception checks with advantage because of Eyes of the Eagle.
Yeah, this is going to play out kind of both ways. Your listening is that 19. Your ability to see is only in the small box that you're in. That's not nearly as important to you. So this is far more about that first roll, regardless.
Okay. Well, then it's the 19.
Now, like if you open those doors and you want to actually be staring down the hallway, that's a completely different story about your ability to actually see things. But largely, you guys are listening for things to be happening around you.
All right. Oh, yeah, that's the 19.
So as you kind of like kick back and watch like the little kind of like spirit inside of this lantern kind of dancing, keeping your attention kind of like broad and focused on the things kind of happening around, you are actually going to start to hear like footsteps out in the halls beyond where you are. Hear a little bit of activity. What would you like to do when you hear this?
I think she would keep concentrating on the footsteps, see if they get like louder, like if they're getting closer.
Gotcha. Roll an insight for me. So, like, if you kind of get a little closer to the door and like try to listen in and gain a sense of like what is the actual activity happening, kind of out and around where you're at, you kind of like start to like hear the like grinding of metal against stone, and reasonably sure that at this point somebody is dragging away the bodies of those tomb guardians who you all killed in this hallway earlier today.
Leading up, so to say, then it's probably not gonna do anything.
Gotcha. So you just kind of let it go at that point?
Yeah.
So it continues on for a good bit of this hour, maybe drawing into the next hour before you're starting to. Oh, wait, my bad. Let me get another perception here from you. Oh, my bad. You can still roll them like with the double. It doesn't have to be singular as there.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I don't know why it rolled singular there, because I tried to roll it like normally we get the double. It just doesn't
Gotcha,
that
word.
much.
So yeah, as you kind of like listen to this activity outside, it seems to kind of blend 1 hour to the next. There's a point where you do like hear like the final bit of activity, and you like continually kind of like listen in this silence, waiting for something else to happen. But eventually, like 5 minutes goes by, 15 minutes has gone by, and you're starting to rest a little bit more assured. Like, whoever came here to clean up these bodies has finished, and this hallway is probably now cleaned. Um, you don't necessarily know whether that should mean good things or whether that might mean bad things. But there is a certain quality of kind of recognizing like something happened outside, someone finished doing their work, and they seem to have kind of gone about whatever it is that they were going about. Eventually, you otherwise come to the end of your hours of watch, and you can wake whoever you would like to wake next.
I think she would get win.
Gotcha. So when you are ready, let me have you roll a perception with Quinn, please. So as Quinn takes to her watch, kind of like rousing partway through the day, taking a bit of time to armor herself, and then kind of just like sit back against the wall, kind of patiently watching, listening, kind of watching almost the dance of Starfallen inside of the actual ghost lamp. Um, she more or less has a pretty simple kind of watch going by. Doesn't seem to be any activity around. Doesn't seem to be anything of special note to kind of have happen, or that seems to be happening around them. And you can roll another perception here for me. So as you go into your next hour, um, kind of time just blending together, you're just kind of focused on like the dance of the fire within as you watch like Starfallen seems to just kind of be like distractingly like focusing your attention. Um, More or less, silence is kind of abounding, and there's just going to be a shocking moment where the doors to this room are thrown open, and I need you to roll initiative.
Is this waking the others up? Should we roll initiative as well?
You can roll initiative with them at present. They are essentially still sleeping here.
Gotcha.
Quinn is effectively going to be just as kind of surprised as everybody else here.
Oh, and are we rolling separately with our sidekicks now, or is still just following us?
No, my bad. I think for what it's worth, we'll still do sidekicks just following your actual turn.
Okay, yeah.
You know.
Are you fucking kidding me? 1157.
Oh, that's amazing in a way.
Alrighty, so Kiranos and Zeros are both sleeping, so that's going to pass you by. Realistically, they're actually kind of throwing the doors open after your turn, anyways. So we've got like one of these creatures like throws these doors open, very quickly, kind of like Hmm. Think. Yeah, it's gonna kind of like scan across the room, like immediately kind of like noticing like your group kind of like laid here and kind of make this assessment and it's just going to kind of like muttering in a language I don't believe anybody has any reason to understand as it kind of like points towards Quinn and you'll see as like the two large guardians kind of start moving towards you, Quinn. Um, and let's see. Technically, whispering kind of thing can be pretty low volume. Let's go for. Yeah, I'd say that's not necessarily disturbing to the or the three people who are still sleeping here. Um, and I think it's just going to raise its uh, crossbow after that to maybe like take a shot towards Quinn. Um, but it's otherwise effectively I'm using its action to assess that Quinn is the one of you who is asleep. Theoretically, my goal being here is to capture Quinn, and you guys will never wake up. Um, Henry is asleep. Quinn, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm thinking she's actually just gonna like let out a loud battle cry and charge at the one straight ahead of her. Hopefully someone wakes up.
Gotcha. Let me have you um roll 2d6 here. I would say that is sufficient for people who are not in magical sleep. As you scream out, all three people are going to be stirred. Nobody necessarily knows what they are being stirred to, but they are all basically, waking up out of their slumber. You guys can all choose how to go about doing that when it comes your turn here. But you can charge forward towards one of the shorter, kind of stouter figures who wears like the green masks. You all have seen these before. These are the like dwarves who seem to run the forge and create these large amalgamation creatures that are the Tome Guardians. So as you charge forward, what would you like to do?
He's gonna swing with her Spyhander.
Gotcha. So first attack, it's able to just kind of like moving to the side and away from your blade. You see as it kind of like parries the blade to the side. Second attack is you like draw up and across its body, kind of like cutting into its leathery flesh. You can see like this cut actually sinks into its flesh. Um, Dealing, is it the 27 is not a crit.
No, because he crits at 19.
Yeah, a 28 is the crit. So yeah, it'll deal 8 damage to that guy. Um, Anything else in mind from Quinn?
No, not at the moment.
So at present, you are still my target. I've kind of allotted you as the target for everyone. I'm not going to hold back on that. They are going to try to take Quinn out right here, and hope that none of the others were actually roused by your battle cry. And that might bode really well for everyone. It might bode really poorly for Quinn. But the first of these Tome Guardians is going to kind of pushing past and into the room, kind of trying to grasp at Quinn. It's going to try to. I think this first one I'm going to go for an actual grapple here. Let me get a athletics or acrobatics, whichever you would like here, as it tries to grapple you. So trying to grasp you, it is going to fail. With the next of its attacks, it is going to try to simply like punch you into the wall as it's like losing grip on your yep. And as you kind of like squirm out of the way, it just like slams its fist right into the actual stonework of the wall, failing to be able to um, grasp at you in the least bit. The dwarf that you initially move forward and into is then going to kind of like drawing its arms kind of backward and almost like flexing its muscles as it goes like stout and low. It starts to let out what you would expect to be some sort of a battle cry as its muscles like tense and its whole body kind of focuses, and there's just silence as this black screaming demonic face kind of starts to like suck the air out of your body, and it is going to try to drain you of life, and it will fail miserably. And then the other guardian is going to do pretty similar, where it kind of steps into the room, and it's going to, I think, just throw two punches towards you as it tries to slam you into the wall. The first one slamming as you dodge the first guardian, and then the second one should hit with a 20.
Yeah, 20 hits.
And it's going to deal 17 points of bludgeoning damage to you as it slams you against the wall. So, Kyrnos, you have heard the battle cry of Quinn. You've heard some of the like stone wrenching punches of these creatures as they miss their target, trying to essentially knock Quinn unconscious before any of you can stir. What are you thinking?
Yeah, so Kyranos hearing the battle cry and is going to scramble to his feet, grabbing his staff. He's going to try and essentially like push through the tapestry, and as you see these things
That one
surrounding.
is essentially open. You can see that doorway already. Like that's the one you guys kind of like threw up and over its like hanger, so you could see the doors. You can see what they're doing out there.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, but like so stepping through and seeing these things surrounding Quinn, Kyranos is going to be he's going to give a shout like leave her be, and he is going to with like a two-handed swing, um, swinging his staff at the one to Quinn's south. Okay, I'll just roll a d10. I forget that doesn't seem to be actually rolling the.
My bad. That was just as much me spamming it, by the way, there.
And I'm going to put in 2 charges into this one. So it should be for a total of 21.
Gotcha. So that is magical bludgeoning. And then the extra damage is that still
Force
bludgeoning?
damage.
That's force?
Yeah. So yeah, 8 force damage and 13 just magical bludgeoning.
All right, cool. Yeah, those all kind of work out the same as far as dodging its resistances. So you blast into it for 21 point.
Yep. And he just kind
So,
of
yeah, just when you hit with the actual ram's head of that, this is again kind of that ability, like when you like use the weave through it, there's that almost like 1-2 punch, and like the second kind of portion of this is like a spectral ram's head that's almost like obscenely large, like hits with that second amount of force as it like slams this creature again into the wall behind. Any other thoughts before you go to Zeros?
Zeros is going to also stand up. And I think he is going to.
So keep in mind, if you stand up how you just did, you're moving into combat. There is a Tomb Guardian immediately to the north of Kyranos right here.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and I think Zero, seeing these things also surrounding Quinn, is going to. He is actually going to attempt to cast Shatter, kind of like basically behind the two that are behind her, so into the hallway to catch those two within the range.
Gotcha, but with the goal of basically just hitting the dwarves, not risking
Right.
any of your friends.
Right, exactly, yeah. Oh my god.
Well, that's success.
And I'm guessing these things are made of organic material, right?
In what relationship? Yeah.
Because they would have disadvantage on the saving throw if they were inorganic, but they're made of flesh, so.
Yeah, and technically they have advantage against saves as well, so.
Okay. It's terrible damage for a fourth. That's a 4th level spell.
Oh, wait a second. Those are against the dwarves, though.
Yeah, just the 2 dwarves.
Those are kind of like pretty clearly like undead creatures, not necessarily. They're not constructs.
Okay.
DC 15, though, both are going to fail. So they will each lose the full actual 8 points. As like the ringing, you almost like see as like the one that's like silently screaming at Quinn kind of like immediately stops, and the other one recoils in the same kind of pain as they each kind of like reach for these like masks on their head, and you can like see that like the reverberations of shatter have like extended into these like demonic masks that they wear, and the like force of the reverberation is like focused into their skulls, and each of them is like reaching for their temples, trying to like steady the masks as they're kind of like wrung by the actual shatter. It's really interesting, like worded spell, because it's really loud, but it also sounds like it's really loud only in this small area.
Yeah, like it doesn't mention. I don't think it mentions like if it's audible from within.
It's a lot of spells. You're like, okay, that's like kind of dangerous to cast, but it says, I
It's
don't
not
know,
like
just the way it's painfully intense within range.
yeah, like it's not like what Thunderwave is the one where it's like it specifically says it's audible for like 300 feet or something like that.
Yeah, a bunch of the thunder ones, like I have a hard time letting it kind of get by, like that this isn't alerting a whole dungeon. Even the ones that don't like specifically say it. It's just kind of hard sometimes to say, like, I don't know. I feel like Shatter has its kind of questionability, but maybe it's not like alerting a dungeon. But that's one of those things, like, to me as a player, when it talks about an audible noise, it's definitely something else. But yeah, you watch as you kind of like stun these two for a moment as you ring their bells, and theoretically, that is the end of Zeros' turn.
Yep, that's all for him.
Hmm. I think the creature is to like kind of southeast of Quinn is going to kind of like pulling the trigger of its crossbow. It's going to release an arrow um, towards Henry. Um, just kind of like rung by its bell. It just like pulls the bow up just as much as anything and just like plinks this arrow like into the ceiling above your head. And as it's kind of like recoiling from the shatter, it is going to reach out and in a pretty similar kind of like flexing of all of its muscles as it like kind of like starts to like focus its attention on Quinn, it is going to try to drain her of her life. Uh, and will also, once again, kind of like still lacking of its focus, kind of like reaching out for her. You just see as this like coil of dark tendrils just kind of like pass beyond her, and then they just kind of like dissipate in kind of like a dusting. And it's going to go to you, Henry.
Yeah, then Andrew, well, walking up to all of this and like a preacher just decided he's gonna stand up and actually bonus action disengage just to get like a bit away like that, and then she's gonna pop an attack against the what is it, the flesh golem, like left of Quinn, like between.
Gotcha. So solid strike from the first. The second will sink into it as well as you kind of like step to the side and just plink plink two arrows into it. It's going to be 1825.
Yeah, 25, because it doesn't get sneak attack on the second. Yeah, that's Aaron's turn. So Quinn is actually gonna keep swinging on the one she started attacking on, like the dwarf to her right.
First slash into the dwarf is going to miss as it's able to like kind of move out of the way, focusing like almost holding itself back from like this ringing in its skull. The second strike again kind of like leaves it too predictable, and you're once again kind of able to slash up and through the dwarf for the second attack. Leaving it bloodied with like this second gash kind of through its chest. Anything else from Quinn?
When is actually gonna action search on that and attack twice again on the same dwarf?
So the third of those attacks will be another successful hit, kind of like drawing it down into this creature. But the next strike, as you cut across it, it is able to move out of the way and narrowly avoid the Zweinander's cross.
And that would be the end of Quinn's turn.
Narrowly escaping. At that point, it is going to draw for its sword, try to slash across you. 17 to hit Quinn.
That just misses.
And then as it's like slashing across, trying to drain your life, it is once again going to. That one was an accidental click, but sadly that was the one I wanted. But as it tries to drain your life, it will come up short, missing you. I skipped one of the Tome Guardians. Let's see, I've got a Guardian between Quinn and Kyranos. So do a d6. Go for Kyranos here. Think you it's gonna go for the same thought that it did before, where I'm gonna try to grapple you first. So contested acrobatics or athletics from Kyranos. Son of a bitch. Is not able to get a hold of you, as you as well are able to just kind of like strength out of its grip. It's almost like the bone structure of this hand, like the anatomy of how this thing has been like sealed together. It's incapable of like fully closing that grip. It's gonna swing for you with a 15 to hit.
That one will hit. Yep.
Gotcha. And as a reminder, right now, Quinn is the only person who is in armor. Unless you are in light armor, you can sleep in it. But it is going to swing for you with the second one. I think that's 2d8 plus 4 as it punches you. Yeah, it's going to deal 16 bludgeoning damage as it punches into you, like aggravated that it like can't get its left hand to grip down onto you. I already did the dwarf, and then it's going to go to the guardian who's right behind Quinn. I think do a d10 with an extras Quinn. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is going to go for Einri. It's actually going to step away from Quinn. You can take a reaction. And is going to try to grip down on Henry. 13 will miss it. As it steps away, you like go to cut across its back and just shriek across metal. Let me get a contested athletics or acrobatics from Einri. It's absolutely terrible. I can't fucking grapple any of you guys with these creatures. That's a 20, but it's still not enough. And it's just going to punch into you. And that's not going to do shit with an 11. So it's going to go back around to Kyranos.
Yeah, and you might have noticed Kyranos is like that thing was trying to grapple. He looks like he's much stronger than he used to be, like even a few hours ago. But he is going to continue swinging away at the.
Don't forget, you're also a goat. So at this point, you look like a jacked motherfucking goat.
Right. Yeah. So he is going to continue swinging the staff at the one to the south of Quinn. He is going to. I'm going to use his inspiration to go with advantage here. So it should be a 32 to hit.
Yeah, solid hit for sure.
And I'm going to use 3 charges this time.
For the exact same amount of damage.
Yep. 20. 23.
I think you did 23 last time. Oh no, my bad. It's 21 last time. But that still sucks, like, for what it's worth. But it's definitely solid, like, beat the motherfucker down with the staff damage.
Yeah, this is definitely not like Kyrinos' old style. So, like, he very rarely was using the staff. But I think that is going to be. I think that's going to be it for him.
I think you're like 2 days into having that staff right now. You are vastly looking like Devlin looked. There's still like slight qualities to like what you look like that are still like humanoid, but you otherwise very much look like um a a, a goat in many forms here. And then again, like your muscles are also certainly already like very evidently kind of like steroidal almost at this point. But I'd say this is the type of thing where like your hair almost already starts to like curl into like ram's horns, and you can almost see like ram's horns like across your head instead of like the normal like comb of your hair.
Right. Yeah. And he is basically moving, just maneuvering a little bit around the 2 here. Zeros is going to. He is going to turn towards the one between Ernie and Tyrannos, and he is going to attempt to kind of reach out and grasp it with vampiric touch. One thing to know, I forgot to mention, I can't change the hit points on Zeros's on actually D&D Beyond, because I'm pretty sure he took some damage last time. But in any event, he's going to cast vampiric touch on this one here.
Its character privacy is set to public. So I have a feeling if you guys can't change the hit point, there's no way for me to make it so you can.
Yeah, because I can use this sheet to like cast stuff, and it's weird, but like I can't like mark off spells used, and I can't change hit point. So I'll just have to.
Yeah. I think that'll be where you just have to kind of like keep like a little bit of like a dry erase or something. Maybe not even necessarily that. Like maybe in your actual notes. I'm not sure if you guys keep like the difference of like scrap paper and like part of your notes paper, but like I would say it's a step towards being a DM controlling multiple characters. You almost need like something that's kind of scrap like. That's where I use like dry erase. And then in your notes that go from week to week, try to keep track of, like actual hit points and spells used.
Yeah, I need like a dedicated notebook because I'll just like grab some like a legal pad from week to week, and then by the time the next week rolls around, I've completely forgotten where I wrote down the notes for the last, I mean, I keep notes on the computer too. I just didn't note down his hit points, but I feel like it was
Well,
seems
that could be the perfect solution. Like, OneNote from Microsoft is a really solid like internet note place, as well as like I use Notion for like most of my notes in D&D. That's another great way to do it. And just having something that's kind of always accessible like that, that's really the solution that you have. Was um, I think it's far easier than learning to have like a dedicated notepad. Is probably just like having an online notepad that you can just access. At least that's my thought, that it would be easier to add that to your habit than to like know that you have to grab your D&D notepad kind of thing.
yeah. I have to look into OneNote. I don't think I've used it before, but it seems like it. I'm sure I can figure it out.
Yeah, all of those internet like note-taking things they're definitely pretty simple. If you had any questions about them, I can definitely run you through a quick little like intro to them because they all have their little quirks, but wow, they're freaking awesome. But yeah, Vampiric Touch, that 23 is going to hit as you reach out and grasp for this thing. Uh,
Yeah, and that is all for.
It'll take the full damage, and if you're missing any hit points, you can heal 8 of them.
Yep. Okay. And yeah, that is all for 0. Oh yeah, I think we talked about it last time about it's weird that it doesn't say it doesn't affect certain types of creatures.
Yeah, I was just looking it over again because I'm like, but I wonder if the tomb. Yeah, see, the tomb dwarves are actually undead, and they're different than the tomb guardians, which are like the amalgamations. They're technically constructs. None of you currently look bloodied, correct?
No for Kyrnos and Zeros.
Yeah, no for Quinn and Irnia as well.
Uh, this dwarf is going to step into the room and beyond. Is going to draw out an axe, and as it kind of like comes past, is going to try to like swing this axe into the chest of Henry, and it should hit you, and it's gonna deal 8 slashing damage as it cuts across you. And then as it's like putting across this wound, it's going to reach its other hand like into your chest, like into the cavity of this slash, and it's going to try to drain your life, which should as well hit. And it's going to deal 5 necrotic damage, and I need you to make a Constitution saving throw. So that 5 damage is reduced from your maximum as well. So just in like the same way as like aid adds to your maximum hit points. If you click on your hit points in the top right, I think you will see in like the bottom left, it says maximum hit point modifier. Just basically notch that down to where it says -5.
I did. I have max HP of 7. Yeah, worked.
And then it's going to go to you, Henry. What would you like to do?
Let's see where I am gonna use Fighting Spirit to give myself 5 temporary hit points and advantage on all attack rolls until the end of my turn. Well, the temp HP goes for more than my end of my turn, but the advantage for all attacks until the end of my turn. And she's gonna attack. Oh,
So this is one of those situations where you can bonus action and disengage. But if you stay in combat here, you're going to have those straight rolls because you are disadvantaged from being in combat right now.
yeah, but I felt like it's small room. I feel like it's gonna be disadvantage on plenty of spaces here, anyways.
I don't disagree, and technically there is the tapestry that we're basically fighting on the line of, where you can't really see.
Yeah, no, so yeah, like
That's kind of like the wall of sight right now in this room. So you don't really have a good choice. I'm not trying to say like that there is a solution here. But that's kind of where you are going to sit here. Is your attacks are going to be straight attacks rather than at disadvantage or at advantage. Essentially, unless you took to the hallway.
yeah, but I'm not gonna do that yet. At least this turn, I'm gonna stay where I am, Fighting Spirit and Sharpshooter with my straight rolls.
Gotcha. So one of the two dwarves is clearly mortally wounded right now. That's the one over near Quinn. Everybody else is essentially still fighting. You guys have certainly done plenty of damage to each of the constructs, but there's nothing that's like visibly wrong with them at this point.
Yeah, actually, then I am going to a straight shot, just normal shot on that really wounded dwarf, and then a sharpshooter on the construct just between me and Kyranos.
Gotcha. Oh, and technically, I think Einrichs, you still have inspiration right now.
Yeah, I do.
You would have gained inspiration from failing that con save, and you can give it to Kyranos, who I believe does not have inspiration right now.
Oh, then I'll do that.
Yeah, I used mine last turn, so hey,
So
Chris.
the 20, my bad. The 24 is going to hit the dwarf that's like on the opposite side of uh, the dwarf that's on the opposite side of Quinn. And those 12 damage is enough to kill that creature as it kind of collapses to the ground with like the arrow like through its like through this like screaming portion of this like demonic skull. Uh, the arrow to your kind of like immediate foe is deflected away and just kind of plinks off of its armor as it just kind of like flies off into the corner of this room here. That one will miss.
Yeah, then for Quinn, she's gonna just attack the construct straight below her, like south of her.
Solid crit cutting into it for 18 damage. The second attack, like following it to the same like weak point into its armor, dealing a total of was that 33? No. Yeah, 33.
Yeah, did right? 33.
Yep, that's what I get.
And it's not going to leave this creature like severely wounded. Definitely a solid amount of damage as you like cut into this cavity of its chest, but you can kind of see that this is certainly like a bloodied state as you like hack into and deal a solid portion of skeletal damage to this creature, kind of like separating most of its like left arm from the rest of it. Anything else from Quinn?
No, that should be it from her.
Alrighty, so one of each of these guardians is going to be swinging at the first of them. Is going to be trying to like swing punches into Kyrinos. The first punch should hit with a 19, and it will do 10 bludgeoning damage. And then the second punch is going to miss as it like connects with him and just like the force of the blow knocks him just a little bit beyond where its second punch comes to, just falling a little bit short there. And then the creature between Kyrnos and Henry is going to try to do the same, punching twice for Henry. Each of those are going to come up short as like the dwarf cuts across Henry and starts to suck your life. It's going to go to Kyrnos.
All right, so Kyrinos is reeling a little bit from that punch, but he is kind of shouting encouragement to Quinn as he sees her kind of like chopping, landing a couple good slices into this one Tomb Guardian, and he is going to just keep also swinging away at the same one.
Gotcha, the southern one.
Sorry, yeah. And might as well go ahead and use that advantage again.
Solid hit with, what is it, 31? Any charges this time?
Uh, he'll use one more charge, yeah. So another 5 on top of that.
Is that the, like, are you leaving it where it has one charge left? Or was that, like, expending the last charge?
I think he's actually got 2 charges left.
Gotcha. So 16 more damage with that hit. Um,
Yeah, and then
that is well done. It had exactly 16 hit points left. As you blast into it, like it kind of like shatters the bones in its chest, but then when you like focus the force of the ram's head, you just like watch as this thing goes from like a state of like rage to it just goes inanimate as the ram's head like flies through the creature, and it's just going to crumble in front of you.
and that's just like goring right through him. Yeah. Yeah, and Zeros is going to he's going to keep trying to siphon some more life force out of the one to his north.
As it's like flailing for Henry, you are just able to get your hand onto it as it's flailing just hard enough, that you almost miss, but you gather just enough of it to siphon 13 points from it. You can gain 6.
All right. Yeah, I think he's otherwise holding there, so that will be all for Zeros.
You see is these points where you have held it now, with these last two kind of reaching out for it, the flesh has turned to a dark blackish purple, and in each of those instances, where your fingers almost extend out from your palm, the flesh is split, and there's bone and sinew kind of exposed beneath. Even some of the actual steel of the armor and rivets that have been run through this flesh are almost changed to kind of purplish colors, as the necrotic force comes in contact with non-living matter. But all of the actual flesh almost rots instantly into these black handprints that you've left on it. That creature is bloodied. But otherwise, back to the Tomb Dwarf. I think it is going to step across and away. If you would like to make an opportunity attack with Henry, you are welcome to. You would still be at disadvantage to shoot with your bow, but otherwise, uh, solid strike into it as it steps over towards Quinn. It's going to try to bring its axe down onto her, and it's just going to kind of flail across the ground before taking that same bloodied hand, trying to grab for the back of her neck. It's screaming out at her in this silence as the air funnels towards its face. It will try to drain her life and once again fail to grasp at her. It's going to go to Henry.
This time with creatures that were dead, she's gonna disengage and move out into the hallway. Something like that. And then, because again, I am going to sharpshooter at the well, hurt bloodied construct.
Gotcha.
Oh, that's a hit.
So once again, you can have inspiration back with Kyranos. The second of those will go unused as both arrows fly into this room and just plink across the tapestry behind.
Yeah. Then Quinn will attack the dwarf that just attacked her.
Deflecting the first attack away with its hands, it's going to once again leave itself exposed with the second attack. Far too predictable how they kind of fend their swords, their foes with swords. You found yourself far too easy to get that second slash across into them, and this one is no less than the last here. For another 14, yeah.
Yeah, then that's it for Quinn.
That second slash is going to leave a massive scar across its chest. Let's see. This Guardian's got 2 of you. It's going to step across, chasing Henri into the hall here. It's going to leave a opportunity attack from each of the mages.
Yes. Kyranos is going to swing at it.
Kyranos will fail to hit as you swing across it and just kind of sink into its
So
like steel.
I didn't
Oh, wait,
roll the
plus
plus
13?
13. Yeah,
I got you. My bad. That is a solid hit. So another 16.
that's my bad. I forgot. Usually I've been rolling and I forgot to that time. And then just 16 damage. And Zeros, he would just stab at it with a. I think actually he'd probably just be punching at it.
The 16 will miss. It is going to basically like running out and flailing into Henri. It should hit you twice with 2 strikes. What was it, like 25s to hit, I think. And it's going to punch you for 16 bludgeoning. And then the second strike is going to be for another 10 bludgeoning. And that 5, the initial 5 has to come from those temporary hit points you had.
Yep, I got it.
And then that's going to go back to Kyranos.
I think Kyranos is going to go to chase after the one that moved past him and try to essentially swing on it as it's swinging at Ernie. And I'm going to go ahead and use that advantage again. Inspiration. Should be 28.
Solid use, 28 will hit.
No charges this time, so just the flat 15.
Now another solid like thud across its back plate as you kind of like dent the plate in, and then it will go to Zeros. What would you like to do?
Yeah, and Zeros still with that kind of kind of weird hand is going to kind of shift his. I don't think he has to be the same creature that he attacks with it, right? Just someone within reach.
For Vampiric Touch?
Yeah. You can make the
I think
attack
that's just a spell attack. Like, it's not a concentration spell where you're summoning a hand that makes these attacks.
Well, so Vampiric Touch actually is concentration. That's why I have that little blue dot.
Oh,
So it says you can make a melee spell attack against a creature within your reach, and then they take a hit, blah, blah, blah. Until the spell ends, you can make the attack again on each of your turns as an action.
gotcha.
So I just want to make sure it doesn't have to be the same creature that I first attacked. It doesn't specifically say that, because I think the first creature he attacked is dead anyway.
Nope, you're good.
All right, yeah. So he is going to then, kind of with that same kind of shadow wreathed hand, reach out for the dwarf this time. I think that will miss them.
That is enough to hit the dwarf, actually.
Oh, okay.
Grasping onto it. This time you're going to do less damage, but you can regain 5 hit points.
Okay, and I think that actually, I'm going to try and keep a note that actually brings him back up to full health now.
Yeah, you'll notice, like, as you get hands on this creature, its flesh doesn't rot in the same way. There's no life to this flesh, and the necrotic damage just doesn't kind of sink in the same way. It's actually going to. Oh, that should have been a D8 probably. Yeah, I think it's going to turn on you as you're like feeding from its flesh, and it's going to like slash down at you with its sword. Should hit you. It's going to deal 8 slashing damage as it comes down on you, and then trying to reach its hand into your wound. It's going to try to drain you of your life. 15 hits, Kyranos or Zeros, unarmored.
I think he's got 15 AC with mage armor, so it still hits. Yeah.
But did you cast mage armor? Oh, okay, yeah, I got you. Yeah, so he's going to deal 6 necrotic damage to you, and then I need a Constitution saving throw.
Okay. Yeah, since Zeros can cast it at will, he basically just always has it on.
But that's part of what I mean, though, is where, yeah, I guess if you cast it right before you go to bed, you've got it for the 8 hours you're sleeping. Can you roll a
Right, yeah.
Constitution saving throw?
Yeah, I guess my point was because it doesn't cost him a spell slot to cast that. He can cast it at will.
Yeah,
so
yeah. So he's going to fail that save. Those 6 hit points will reduce his maximum hit points by 6. And then it's gonna go to Enrice.
Aaron is gonna disengage again. Just a little bit. And then she is gonna shoot at the construct with sharpshooter, but I'm gonna use my inspiration this time for the first attack.
Gotcha. Is the idea you're doing 2 shots at it with sharpshooter?
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. So the first will hit, dealing 24, and then the second's gonna hit for another 21 for 45.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's those 2 arrows like sink into pretty much like the exact same point on this creature. You're going to watch as you like step away from it. It's gonna like reach out to follow you, and just 1-2 straight through, kind of like the spinal cord. This thing's going to instantly go limp and just kind of crumple to the ground.
Yeah, and then for Quinn, she's gonna try to finish off the remaining dwarf.
Which, as it's reaching into Zeros, I don't believe should be any problem at all, as it's trying to consume Zeros's life, leaving itself open. 2 slashes across it, and you pretty much just bisect that creature right down its back. And like the screaming skull mask that it wears just tumbles to the ground. You guys have a little bit of calm that sends across the room. What would you like to do?
If these things know we're here, there may be others. I'd suggest try to find somewhere else to rest, finish out the night.
Aaron is gonna pipe out the. Yeah, on my watch, I noticed that there sound like they were dragging away the constructs that we had fought before. Might it be that they were just here to clean up, so to say? They somehow knew the forehead was damaged.
Perhaps you should have woken us. We could have caught them in the act. Perhaps they're just something. Perhaps is rebuilding these things or using the pieces. Might have caught them in the act.
I'll do that next time. Maybe we should try resting in that room with the golden skull instead. It's a secret door. Might be there wasn't anything disturbed there, so hopefully nothing will disturb us there as well.
Um, Perhaps somewhere else.
Where do you suggest then?
We could return upstairs. Find another room. Perhaps someplace with a bit less temptation.
Well, right. You want to lead the way, or
Certainly.
So, stepping back out into the hall, are you all preparing to go back to the grand staircase and head upstairs? Or are you looking to like go through the Golden Skulls room and move back to the like hidden stair?
Kyranos is going to maybe even like kind of like keeping a little extra distance from this room with the skull. He is going to make for the main grand staircase heading up.
Gotcha.
Kind of like he can hear, Cubazon kind of be in his head, like it's, but he knows he can still remember, like, the rational part of his brain is still saying like, no, like that's not, it's not a good risk to take. But otherwise, he's not really like pausing to like listen or anything at the bottom foot of these stairs. He's just kind of starting up, kind of like, come on.
So, heading back into the third level, you guys can leave some of those like purple growths behind you. There's probably more than one or two occasions where you like step on a little bit of the like mycelial growth, and one of these tiny little eye stalks like appears and stares at you for a few moments as you guys just kind of continue to walk by. But you can head back up to the next level, get to the landing on the stairs. Where would you like to go on this level?
We could head back into this tomb room with the I think that was Papa Zodal's tomb. As long as we don't disturb the coins or anything, should be all right.
As you approach towards that tomb, you will see that there's no zombies like in the actual wall. They're still dead from the last time that you've killed them. So if you would like, you can certainly lift that wall and kind of make your way inside.
Yeah, Kyranos might be able to actually do it himself. He might like show off a little bit with his new goat strength if he can.
You said your strength is at 23.
23, yeah. He's got the strength of Kubazan in him.
You need a little bit more help, but it does not require all of you. You can see, what is it like? I think it's the kind of thing where maybe you guys can see that Kyranos is like almost like making this budge, but not quite able to actually like make any like headway. It's almost where he can lift like just about what this weighs, and almost give it like kind of a neutrality.
Gotcha. Yeah, so Kyranos will then kind of
But I think any other person and Kyranos, they lift this thing without any problem at all.
yeah, he'll call over for Ernie and just help me get it up just a bit.
And I will step up and help.
And then that kind of puts you all like at the point where like the other two can walk through, whereas in the past you all had to work as four. You're basically finding like these two people are able to hold up that roof or that like door with the zombies, or that once held the zombies.
Yeah, so then once Zeros and Quinn are through, kind of Kyranos will like kind of he's like, all right, on three, and then kind of step through together with Ernie and then kind of let the door or the gate kind of close behind. I guess maybe trying to have it close not too super loudly. I don't know if how much they can control it.
I think if you rocked out like three of you, like with Quinn over there, it would be a little bit easier. But I think technically you find you're kind of limited to like two people, just space wise. But that's one of those things where I think in the long run you guys can make it happen pretty quietly, and you can find yourselves inside of Papa Zoto's tomb. And as far as appearances go, I think you'll find that all of the. Ooh, wait, did we step this back and go for the idea that you did not have to fight? I think we kind of stepped it back, so I think you'll find that all six of the like orbs that are like the cauldrons of bones are all intact and filled. Because I don't think we had to actually fight them. Because that was my mistake. You kind of like bypassed it last time.
Right, yeah. So yeah, Kyranos will kind of like just kind of warn everyone like don't disturb the sarcophagus and kind of like even as he's saying, he's trying like more saying it or at least somewhat saying it to himself. Like don't go picking a fight we don't need right now. But yeah, otherwise we'll suggest we kind of hunker down and try to finish up our rest. Or I guess at this point, maybe even have to. I don't know if we have to like kind of essentially start over.
Not really. They've kind of fixed like the plan is for them to fix the idea of interrupting rests in D&D 1, so it's very clear that an interruption is an interruption. Whereas like currently technically you can like have fights for up to an hour, which is one of the absurdities. So like imagine actually getting into fights that even approaches that hour before it affects like your ability to rest. That's more fighting than is an adventuring day. To like chain an hour's worth of fighting in game is impossible. It would be like hundreds of hours of game time. But yeah, you guys can get here. As far as things go, I don't know who you've got set for the last watch. I think it's Zeros. But as far as things go, I did not roll for any other random encounters. You guys can hunker down here, and you can gain your long rest. I already kind of described that Kyranos, you will look a little bit more goat-like, but I see no reason for it to be like so dramatically just like at the tick of daytime, but that is when you can roll for your staff. But otherwise, you guys can do all of your long rest things, and if you have anything like that staff that are triggered at dawn, this is effectively then where you guys can kind of regain those things. But I'm going to take a quick little break here. If you guys would like to do the same, let's come back, sooner than later. But we'll regather in a few moments here after everybody's long rested.
Sounds good. Yep, I'll be back in a few.
Are either of you there? Did you stay at your computer, Chris?
Yeah, I'm still here.
So, I think with about 40 minutes to go here, um, I'm jumping a little bit here while we wait for Justin, but I do want to put this to you because we'll put it to him as well. But I wonder if you all have thoughts as to like approaching the tomb that you technically have already done, but it was inside of the mirror universe. Um, like how much you think you might do things differently and want to play it out versus how much we might be able to do in kind of like a fast forward and perhaps not necessarily extend into so much detail. So that's one thing to kind of like keep in mind here, the potential of how we move forward here. Because I think at this point, and this is where I want to draw your attention to most, I think you guys have a solution to pretty much all of Asarak's warnings. Again, you've not necessarily done what you have from the third warning, but you've at least done it on some format before. So I think we know you've accomplished things from the first warning. You've accomplished the second warning. I think you know like the darkness of the stairs a little bit better now, as those are like the side stairs that can lead you through these things. And then I think walk through the water, weapon in hand, slake your shadow, vulture's the first step, write the gods, the walls of history tell all. You guys might be potentially wondering about write the gods, but I feel like that's kind of one of those things where it's just kind of up to you guys to how to interpret the third level as perhaps being complete.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with like, fast forwarding a bit. Like the things we did in the mirror dungeon. At least.
I'm back.
So I wanted to put it to you, Justin, for the two of you to consider the warnings from Asarak. I think it is close to being viable that you guys understand that you've now completed the first three warnings, 1, 2, and third level. Depending on how you interpret write the gods as like the second to final line. And potentially like looking at this next level is like, how would you change anything to how you kind of went about it last time? Like approaching the vault of reflection, like this third level, or this fourth level rather. Third level? Damn it, I'm confusing myself now. I think this is the third level. Yeah. Approaching it, how would you change what you might have done in the mirror dimension the first time that you went through? Is there any thoughts as to, do you approach things differently? Do you kind of fast forward through some of this where you already kind of know how to pass, like the wall of water? Do you go into the room where you slake your shadow? Do you go through and get um, the unicorn horn from Ijin? Do you have any thoughts about that?
I think probably the one thing I would want to change is when we pick up the thing with the medallion, like breaking through the stone, use the mage hand to pick it up rather than having somebody physically pick it up, because I think there was the acid trap that got triggered. And I feel like Kubazan would be maybe like whispering in Kiranos' ear, like, why don't we just like take care of that eye stock thingy that you know. Um, but I think Kiranos is going to try and resist that.
What do you mean about take care of the eye stock thingy? What are you thinking?
Like the first time we came down in the false tomb, and kind of, I think he had used burning hands to try to clear away some of the mycelial growth, and that had disturbed, and it came up and shot a bunch of eye rays and almost killed us, or killed Kiranos. So essentially not doing that this time.
All right, yeah, I kind of like already teased the idea, like you guys are still touching some of the mycelial growth, and some of those things are watching you. So when you guys were walking back up to long rest, I already kind of teased at those. So that's kind of definitely up to you, like whether you can resist, like essentially attacking them versus like recognizing that they are there.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was more like like they're definitely, we know they're there and they're watching us, but I think I got the impression it was the fire. Like if we don't intentionally antagonize them, they didn't seem to be, at least last time, they didn't seem to be attacking us.
Yeah, the little ones watch you. When you attack them is when they actually responded with the rays that responded.
Yeah, and I think given the fact that Kiranos would very nearly died, that might be enough for him to resist Kubazan's kind of urging. Let's clear this stuff out and take them on. Um,
Yeah, he does not have to be suicidal. So I
yeah,
definitely think that's perfectly fine to recognize.
yeah. Other than that, I guess, like this time we'll go and take the tridents first and walk through the water, because I think we know the trick now, and like we know the path that we need to follow of the hieroglyphs. Um, so I guess, yeah, the
So when
question
you
with that
go
then
into
would
the
be,
water room and you collect the trident, um, I mean, this is again kind of like pushing for like the fast forward idea. Do you guys go into the illusory rooms? Does Kyrinos forget the illusory rooms? Do Zeros and Quinn forget that there were those illusory rooms?
I think Kyrnos will remember. I mean, he does have keen mind, so
Gotcha. So then, like, the halfway point of each of these was the hawk, the thing that has no weapon in its hands, was the hawk-headed human. And the right side of each of these is that illusory room. So, I think that's where you collected.
yeah, I forget what colors they were, but they were like the little eyeball crystals.
Um, Pale purple, and then in the southern one, and then bright green in the northern one.
And then I think Taryn had found a third when he searched the dead dwarf inside the Asian's sarcophagus room.
Gotcha. So you have the idea in mind to kind of smash the what is it? I think it's just like an actual like amulet on like the creature's necklace that blocks the doorway in. You have in mind to smash it, but this time to remove it from its spoke with Mage Hand, where there would be that like puff of acid, and basically once you remove it, I think the door opens up ahead of you, where you would have the dwarf in that central position. But you guys could go in searching its body.
Yeah, I think Kyrinos would suggest that. I think Taryn had found some couple of nice gems and
Who do you all think is searching it? Let me get a investigation from that person.
I mean Kyrinos is with Taryn, so I guess it might make sense for him to do it.
Oh, yes, we don't forget. We do the cauldron room as well?
Oh yeah, that's like the shadow. Yeah, I think we would. So I think now we know how it works.
I guess I remember. I think we found another gem there as well in the cauldron when it was empty.
So when you search the corpse of the dwarf, you can mark down finding a. That's where I just flipped to it, and now I don't have it in front of me. What the fuck did I do? All right. Bravius has a yellow turban that's set with a peridot gemstone. That's of 500 gold value. He has a shield on him that's in nice enough condition. Certainly shows some damage of the battles that he's lived through. A pouch containing a pretty nice sizable diamond. For the purposes of writing it down, you can write down 500 gold pieces. And then he has two of these little crystal eyeballs. One is dark blue, and the other one is a vibrant purple.
Okay, Kyrinos will. He's not going to take the shield unless Quinn wants it.
Oh, I don't think she's need of shield.
But otherwise, he will take the peridot, the pouch with the diamond, and the crystal eyeballs. And I guess the next question is somebody picking up the horn? Kyrinos can share what happened when he tried to use it.
Oh, right. Yeah. Forgot about that.
When you make your way in to Ijin's tome, beyond that, like where like Kubazan was a completely stark and kind of like very plain sarcophagus, this sarcophagus is gold. It is entirely clad in gold. The funerary barge is all clad in gold. There's nothing but value to be had from any of this if you wanted to take it. When you do open the actual sarcophagus itself, within is simply the horn of Ijin wrapped in a little funerary wrapping. That's just kind of like a small gossamer, like silk scarf almost.
I think Ernie would be curious about it because she's curious about everything in the tombs. She's gonna take a look at the horn and pick it up.
So roll a die, and one is, who do you have right now? Oblaka. And then even is Ijin. So Ublaka once again wins out.
Yeah, so Ernie's just gonna be like, ah, this horn and the magical effect seemed useful if random. Yeah, no, just put it back again.
So if that feels sufficient, that you don't actually require anything from Ijin's temple, you all can leave that behind. And then, like you said, you did have that room with the shadow kind of just outside of this area. Who wanted to open the doorway into that room?
I guess Ernie could open it if Kira's told her about it, that it's safe, so she'll open it.
Gotcha. So as you open the doorway, you see in front of you that there's a person kind of standing in shadow, looking away from you with their cloak kind of drawn across their back, and they seem to be opening the door to the east of you.
And doing as she's been told, she's gonna back up and mimic drinking out of.
Mimic kind of drinking from the soup.
Yeah, exactly.
So spend a little bit of time as you consume this soup with your shadow, before eventually you start to just hear like the scrape of the spoon against the base of this jar, and it seems to be kind of like pinging these gems at the bottom of this thing. But you can otherwise head inside of there, and I believe there are two more gems inside of this one actually.
Yeah, then Ernie will pick those up.
Oh no, my bad. It is one. An orange crystal eye. Are you still there, Justin? Have we lost you?
Sorry, I'm here. I was I had a
All good. Just want to make sure like you didn't like disconnect and you've been speaking to us. Um, so I think that puts you guys pretty much back where the mirror left you. Um, and that's kind of what I was really looking to accomplish for today. Um, so I feel like then it becomes a question of, do you all have any other thoughts as to what you are looking to accomplish? Do you have any other thoughts about like what you have at hand here?
I guess the only other thing is because have we run into one of those skeleton things with the keys on the third level yet? I feel like we've gotten the first and the second level. We've run into one, but not on the third level yet.
My bad. I didn't actually roll for it when you opened Ejin's temple this time. But I think it's satisfying to say you guys could Oh man, that's fucking hilarious. Yeah, I would say there is one in the temple. Um, I think it's entirely possible for Einri to shoot it and kill it when you guys open up the temple. But I'll put it to you as a challenge. Once you walk to, like, you know the path to Ijin sarcophagus, but what would you do? Like the skeleton dies, kind of like on the southern side of this room. How would you retrieve the body?
Um,
I guess really that's not even
well,
terribly difficult because you can almost go fishing for it.
I mean, I could also. I was thinking, Kyrnos does have that spell scroll of levitate, so he could levitate himself, and then essentially like along the walls. Um,
You've
and
also
then
got Mage Hand. I don't think it's nearly as interesting as not. But yeah, I rolled a 17 for a random encounter. When you walked into that room, that would be where you find it. It's not nearly as interesting as I thought in hindsight. Oh, and I should have also rolled it in the water room. So there's two like fast forwarded rooms I should have rolled for it, and I didn't. But yeah, the first one that I did, I think it's perfectly satisfying to say. You all get the third of those. I have to look to make sure, but let's call it the circle.
all right. Yeah, so I think in terms of the warning, yeah, walk through water with weapon in hand, like you shadow the font, vulture is the first step. I interpreted right the gods as the following the kind of essentially, I think it was the clockwise pattern of the hieroglyphs. And then I think the walls of history seems like we were on the right track, that was referring to Kubazan's tomb. So Chris, unless you have any other thoughts, I'm kind of thinking we've done what we need to on the third level.
Yeah. The only thing I'm curious about is what these crystal eyes are for. It's for this level or next, or what they're supposed to be for. Are they just good looking and sellable, or are they actually for something, seeing as there's plenty of them? They're all in this shape of an eye.
I don't recall coming across anything they would like fit into, like that they had been pried out of, that we might need to put them back in. But I could try and if we wanted to camp out for about 10 minutes or so, I might be able to see if there's any sort of magic emanating from them.
And sure, we can do that.
Where do you think you're doing this at? Where do you guys suppose you are right now?
I was thinking maybe back on the southern side of the water room.
Gotcha. Can I have you move yourselves over there? And you are casting detect magic ritually.
Yes.
So when you cast this, you will see that the 5 crystal eyes that you all currently have are indeed non-magical. I think you would see the illusion that separates those walls where you found two of them, the illusory magic there. I think you would see transmutation magic that covers much of how the water is actually flowing, like in this, general vicinity of this room, because it almost kind of, again, like collects, like almost like a film around like all of the edges. And like towards the exit, it kind of like sits almost like a few inches deep, despite not flowing into the hallway just beyond. But you would also notice that there is a crawlway that is covered by illusory magic on the southern side, the southeast of this hall. And that is beneath I think the stork-headed human. And I think that one holds the hammer. But there's a little crawlway just to the south of you.
Oh yeah, so Kiranos will kind of point that out, and we missed that the first time through. Well, what we thought was the first time through. Let's we should check it out.
Yeah, and then I don't think you're going to notice anything magical from anything new that you all have collected recently. Trying to think if anything should jump out at you, but I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm assuming the quiver and the arrows were just decorative.
Correct, non-magical.
Yeah, I don't think we've picked up anything else.
So if you move into the crawlway, you guys will find that it's about like 3 by 5. It's pretty narrow. You have to kind of like hunch down. It's pretty much shoulder to wall inside of there. Continues off to the east for about 20 or so feet before it will go and turn south. And you will eventually find that there is a small room that this crawlway leads to, and it has another crawlway that leads out of it to the south.
Yeah, and Kiranos would be much more comfortable taking the lead now, so he would be kind of just like moving through. And then within this room, is there anything, I guess, of any like particular note there?
Roll a perception for just kind of like visual clues, or you could do an investigation if you're going for more like physical clues, kind of like checking and touching things kind of thing.
Yeah, I think more just looking around. I wasn't sure if the image on the screen, like with those like kind of different colors, was meant to actually represent something that he might have noticed. That was kind of what I was mostly trying to get at with that. But this is just generally kind of looking around. So
Looking around this little like it's kind of like a 10 by 10 room. It's led, it seems to, by these two little crawlways that come into and leave through the north and the south of it. Um, it has like some dust and kind of like traditional normal spider webs to it. It's got like a 15-foot ceiling. There doesn't seem to be anything terribly remarkable about this room, but from all signs of it, it doesn't see activity.
yeah, so not seeing anything that's immediately um, jumping out as dangerous, and wanting to know where this crawlway continues. I think Kiranos is just going to move in and start making his way towards the southern continuation of the crawl space.
So as you start to crawl through to the next little portion, it goes probably about like 10 or so feet to the south before it turns to the west. And you're going to crawl for about 10 or so feet before you get to a grate on that side. And when you kind of get to this grate, you'll already be kind of like hearing some of these like horrendously loud winds. And it's kind of at this point where before you necessarily step out, it's already going to be difficult to like have a discussion one to another. Um, Even like within the actual like confines of this little tunnel here. But as you step forward, let's see. So I think on this side, you're going to come out on a little balcony. I feel like that's still like part of the crawlway. I think that's too much to show that little balcony there. Um, but you're basically kind of like crawling out of this balcony at the feet of this massive statue of this like horrendous pit fiend with massive wings kind of like outstretched, this horrible visage of like pain, agony, and like anger across this demonic and like horned face. And it just kind of like looks off over this balcony, and you can see to the south of you, to the north of you, and to the west of you, there's just this chasm of darkness. And off about the height of the actual balcony, you can actually see that there's like a little platform, like about a 10 by 10 platform that's kind of floating in the air. And just above it, there's a like burning ember of a candle that just like lights right above the platform, and it seems to float in these winds. And again, inside of this is like a cacophony of like blowing tornado like winds. And you can just see that across this chasm, there's these 5 platforms that all float in the air about chest height of this demon that you're kind of like walking out below its legs. Um, yeah, and Kubazan is going to speak to you, Kiranos, as you see. The time is now. Jump between these platforms, and we will find ourselves the victors of this great prize.
So do we feel actual winds buffeting us too, or does it just sound like there's like loud winds? And do I guess and more like I guess do the platforms that are floating, do they seem to be giving any sign that they're being like buffeted by winds? Do they seem to be fairly steady kind of where they're floating?
The floating platforms are indeed steadily like floating where they are. You can see like little bits of movement to them, but it's basically a recognition like the platforms seem to be floating in place. Um, let's see. Howling winds rise up and fill the room. I feel like, yeah, you would feel the wind is indeed like flowing through this room. I think maybe say like it's actually something where you can feel it as you like step out onto the balcony, that it's like from in front of the demon, the winds are flowing, but like behind the demon, you can simply just hear them.
Gotcha. Okay, makes sense. Yeah, I might need a little time to think about what I want to do here.
Well, and again, we're essentially at the end of the session. So, like, walking into this next little section is a perfectly acceptable time. On some level, I kind of was hoping we would either get to this or get to the next level of the dungeon. And have that as like a place to like kind of level off. Um, but yeah, I think it might be acceptable to say you can see to the other side, where there's a light over like a switch on this other side and a little staircase that leads up. But I think this room is basically lit by those 7 lights and then any light that you come in with. So you've got like the demon that you walk through is like about 15 feet high, and it has a light above it on this balcony. And then each of these platforms kind of hovers in space about at the like chest height of this demon, so almost at like kind of your head height. And then they like cross this chasm. I think it's probably about 60 or so feet. And then on the opposite side, you can see that there's like a lever just beneath the light on the other balcony.
Kyrnos gonna look back towards the others. Who's coming with me?
Irina will, a bit hesitantly, follow with.
But yeah, we'll pick up there next week if you decide to leap across and start to make this endeavor. Otherwise, I hope you guys had a good day today, and we'll pick up here next week.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I think Kyrnos is definitely going to be trying to get across. Just not sure if he's got anything that might increase his chances of making it there in one piece. So
Yeah, Erin will probably wait until she's seen someone at least jump onto the platforms. See what happens. She can try it out.
yeah, so I guess we'll see. Yeah, the Kyrnos will be the guinea pig here, so he'll be the first one to leap. I guess we can wait and see what happens when he does that, or if he makes it. Yeah, next week.
Yeah, that was purely happenstantial. Like, you're like, oh yeah, let's cast detect magic. All right, where are you? There's a lot of places that you can cast detect magic, and you're not going to see anything. There's a lot of places you can cast detect magic, and you're going to see a whole shitload of stuff.